what's it called? I actually bought the new Star Wars game.
Oh my god, don't spoil anything.
Oh,
I
that dude.
can't wait to play it.
Well, that's the thing. I can't really spoil it because I've only played 15 minutes of it.
Oh right, okay. Yeah, tell me what you think so far then.
Oh, I don't know. One of my best friends is like, what was he saying? He was like, he's saying it's meant to be insane. So everyone of you, by the way, before we even start the podcast, well, we've already kind of started the podcast. Everyone in the comments, what's everyone's thoughts on Star Wars? Because I need to kind of actually get out and start playing the game, because I bought it like ages ago and I've not even got even past finished the first mission, and that's about it.
Mate, like I've deliberately stayed so far away from that game. I'm not even looking up screenshots at this point because I don't want any spoilers.
Oh, it's the worst, man. When a spoiler gets revealed. Oh, like I literally just finished Breaking Bad. Have you seen Breaking Bad?
Well, talking of spoilers, right? So the first time I ever seen Breaking Bad, I came down and my mum was watching it, and I was like, "Oh, what's this?" And she's like, "Oh, it's just Breaking Bad." And I was like, "All right, okay." I sat down, thought, "Oh, I'll watch it, and then maybe I'll pick up." It was the last episode. I was like,
no.
"Are you kidding me, mum? You didn't even warn me." So yeah, now I'm watching it as like almost Romeo and Juliet, where you kind of know the ending at the start, kind of thing.
Oh my god, I don't know what to say. That might actually be the most painfulest thing I've ever heard in my life.
It is, yeah.
Just so everyone's aware, obviously I'm not going to say any spoilers, but Breaking Bad to me is the greatest TV show ever made. Like,
it is good.
Like, it is that good. Like, Game of Thrones is great, but Breaking Bad to me was just on a whole other level. Like, I think it was that good. But before we even talk about just games and film, let's get into the podcast, because let's get straight into introductions. So, if you're wondering who on earth am I talking to right now, we have Dan McCabe back on the show. Welcome back. It's a pleasure to have you back on. As always, this is the Shooting Art Podcast. It's a weekly series where I bring on guests from the film and game industries to talk about their journey and thoughts on student education. The great thing about, obviously, Dan, that we've already gone into so much depth about his... So Dan actually got into the industry at literally 18 years old, working in AAA, and he's worked on 3 incredible titles so far. If you guys are tuning on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. Make sure to smash the subscribe button and press the like button, and most importantly, turn on notifications to be notified every single week when the podcast is live. As always, the podcast is on 11 other platforms, so if you want to go tune in on Spotify, you name it, make sure to check it out. Links will be in the description below. So the Shooting Art Podcast is sponsored by the Rookies. There is simply no better way to launch your career and start sharing your amazing work online. Throughout their website, you can create your own portfolio, enter lots of contests that take place all year round, and has an incredible community for non-professional digital artists. From hobbyists, students, self-taught artists, to even people wanting to make a career change, the Rookies community brings everyone together, allowing you to be surrounded by people on the same journey as you. So if you want to showcase your portfolio, grow as an artist, and track your progress, sign up to the Rookies today. But most importantly, obviously, Dan, make sure to go give him a follow and check his ArtStation and social media pages down below. You'll also be seeing it right now as you guys are tuning in on YouTube. And with that said, we'll just get straight into the podcast. So yeah, thanks once again, man, for coming on. It's a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, thank you for having me back. It's it's been cool. Been a few months, I believe. I can't remember exactly when the last one was, but it's been a while.
Yeah, I think it's like, dude, I can't believe it. It's been like 20 episodes now since you were on. It's crazy.
I know, yeah, I was like looking through and I was like, oh my god, I have some catching up to do here. Like, I've watched obviously some of them, but I was like, I can't keep up with you.
Sorry, I do apologise, because that was the thing as well. So I put out an announcement. I was saying to Dan, so we've got 8 podcasts in the next 2 weeks, and I almost forgot. By the way, just want to say thank you to everyone. We literally just reached 100,000 views on the podcast. So thank you.
Way.
I know, man. I was so happy. I'm incredibly grateful and thankful for everyone who's been tuning into the podcast. It really means a lot. So thank you for subscribing and just being on this journey with me. But as always, we'll go with introductions as always, just in case people haven't tuned into the previous episode. So just tell us a wee bit about yourself, man, and what you do.
Well, first, let me be the first to congratulate you on 100k views. That is a very, incredible achievement.
Thanks a lot, man.
But yeah, I'm Dan. If you missed the last one, I'm an experienced artist at Codemasters. I work in the Birmingham studio, and I specialize in like environment art and cinematic art, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Awesome.
all fun.
Yeah, because so in the last one, obviously we went into a lot of things in regards to his background. So today we're going to obviously we'll talk a wee bit about Dan's background, etc. But I think it'd be great to kind of tackle obviously a lot of different questions that either that we've not raised in the podcast or things that maybe we can utilize in regards to obviously Dan's experience so far in the industry. And I actually want to talk about one that's actually it's quite an obvious one. It's a common one first, but it'd be great to kind of hear your perspective on it. And it's obviously something that we never tackled before, and it's like passion, etc., and also like just mindset, and then dealing with burnout, etc. So I was actually wondering, like, what's your thoughts on obviously maintaining like that passion for art? Because obviously I understand a lot of artists like we're working art all the time. So if it's your full time job, it makes sense that obviously you want to have a break. What's your kind of thoughts on just trying to keep motivated, basically?
That's interesting actually, because I was like the whole concept of burnout and stuff is very real. I meet some people and I talk about it with them, and they're like, no, I don't burn out. Oh, you do. You definitely do. Like, if you don't, it means you've just got a really high tolerance, and that's awesome. But eventually, if you keep up in that intensity and stuff, like it's crazy. Like when I first learnt substance designer, anyone who knows me personally will tell you that like I was working, obviously the normal like get kind of 8:30 till 5, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then I would get home, eat tea, and then I would just spend like 5 hours on design. I was genuinely like in love with it. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? It wasn't like so it didn't feel like I burnt out, and I'm doing like these outrageous hours like
yeah,
day after day after day. And then whether I liked it or not, it took me about 4 months before I burnt out, and I burnt out hot. I got really ill, like
right,
the
damn.
illest. And like it's because other in the past, like with my competitions and stuff, if you tuned into the last one, you'll hear about that. You're used to like working really intense for long periods of time and sort of not sleeping much and stuff. So I
Mm-hmm.
had a high tolerance, but it did catch up to me. So those of you out there who might be working as they're listening to this, and maybe you've been, smashing it out particularly like crazy recently, maybe just, go watch some telly, go watch some Breaking Bad or something like that, chill out a bit.
Yeah, like that's the
Don't
thing.
make yourself ill.
Yeah, I know. Like that's the thing. It's like it's so crazy because it's weird. Like so I was actually saying this to Sonia on the last podcast, so make sure to check it out. And when we were talking, basically, it's like at the end of the day, it's like obviously like you want to make a good impression, but it's like at the end of the day, your how can I say it? Your body's more important. Your just general health is like you're going to be making better art if you look after yourself. And it's like there was actually one area of this question that actually kind of stuck with me because so basically at one point because I was doing art so much I actually got bored of it, like I got fed up of it. And obviously that's a big thing to say, like obviously like when you have a passion for so long, and I understand that sometimes like you'll reach a point that you're just like I don't want to do this anymore. And I understand that sometimes people go through this, and obviously when it comes to students, the reason why I wanted to bring this up is that it's you have to just keep going at it in terms of just obviously plan things, give things a rest when you need to, and be patient with it. Like I always say every podcast. But when it comes to like passion, be careful because burnout is it's not something that you should be ever like proud of. Like you should always be smart of it, and like obviously I understand that there's a lot of studios like sometimes that obviously request overtime etc. or they'll like what's the phrase they always say like crunch.
Ah,
So
yeah, yeah.
like I'm not really a big fan of crunch. I don't understand it, but I acknowledge the fact that jobs have to be done. Like speaking of crunch, like what's your thoughts on crunch?
Um, I've never had to do it, right? So
Oh,
the ex
perfect. That's great to
so
hear.
I've worked on three AAA projects, and not saying I'm on a fourth now.
Hmm.
We haven't ever had to do crunch. And then you talk to the people in the studio, and that these are horror stories of like when this like not so much Codemasters, but when they were at other companies,
Hmm.
and like they've had to like pull long nights and stuff like that. I don't know. It's my only experience of crunch is you get you all sort of psyched up for it because it does sound kind of fun on paper when you're a student. Like, oh yeah, you get to like order takeaway and stay up really late making games with your friends and stuff. Well, do a game jam. Like, You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
what that is. You know what I mean? You don't particularly want that, in your work life, because the whole work life balance, and then the scales will eventually be tipped. But yeah, personally, I haven't experienced it, but
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, if that's just something that kind of scares me a bit. But that's one down to maybe the production itself, and like whether you're able to time manage it, which I'm always got a lot of faith. Our producer has to put up with me constantly going, "Oh, are we screwed?" Like it's one
All
of
right.
them.
Yeah.
Like I'm always like, I think I've got a lot on, and that's because we're on, like it's a dev cycle. It's not a dev day, is it? It's like,
Hmm.
so me as an artist, I need to know what I've got on in like that moment, and in the future and just gone. But um like the producer's job is to tell you exactly, are we on track here? And that's their job to worry about, not yours. You just, you know do your job.
Yeah, like I'm glad you mentioned that because like that's the thing as well. Like, obviously, like when it comes down to the job and working in the industry, one thing I always say, and I say it every time, just so no one ever gets misguided, and it's basically that every studio does work differently. Obviously, there's habits and there's trends that studios follow, whether it's software, whether it's certain processes, etc. You name it, whatever it is. There's obviously a lot of things that obviously stay consistent. But when it comes to obviously pipeline and working with people, there's a lot of things that can obviously change on a daily basis. Sometimes you get put under pressure, and like your artists, like your just general speed as an artist might be, how can I say it, be put through the paces, so to speak. Like obviously, like that's one thing like I've not really talked about obviously on the podcast is speed. Like how much does your ability to work fast not only affect the pipeline, but in regards to the, just like how important is that to you as an artist?
I think maybe it goes back to that kind of motivation thing that we were talking about earlier as well. Like everyone, when they're like really motivated, whether that, as in a studio or whatever, they're going to be working like flat out. Like they're going to look at it minute by minute rather than like they'll be like, I can't really give an example, but say you've got like a task on,
Mm-hmm.
and someone says, "How long do you need for this task?" or whatever. If you're not feeling too up for it or very confident, maybe you've just like stumbled across something that's really tripped you up and you kind of knocked a bit. Like it takes you a while to build that confidence, motivation back up to be able to say, no, that's not going to take me 2 hours. Like it's going to take me half an hour. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it changes.
Definitely.
But everyone's different, right? And I think being able to work fast for every single person in the industry is important.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like when you go quick, you make mistakes, right? And that's bit me a couple times where I've like not rushed, but gone quicker than I probably should have, and then realized, okay, I've got a bit longer than I needed on this. And like saving time's one thing, but there's a reason you got that time. Same with budgets, right? So you get given like a 10K, whether it's verts or tries, doesn't really matter, budget for something, and then you do it in five. Well, you were given 10K, and if you can use that extra five really effectively, then you should probably do that. So use saving time's great, but try not to undercut yourself because it might hurt you in the long run.
Yeah, no, that's well said. Thanks for saying that. Because like in regards to this topic, because there's a lot of different scenarios that obviously we're all different. We all work at different speeds, and certain studios require certain things at certain speeds. Because at the end of the day, it is a production pipeline. Like some studios, obviously I can't speak for studios etc. Because obviously I've only worked in so many. But in regards to like how can I say it? Like everyone will work, like I said, works and just tackles things at different speeds. So if you do struggle with maybe picking things up, like say maybe you're a slow learner and maybe it takes you like I don't know, we'll exaggerate. Okay, so we'll say 30 times to for something to click. There's one great thing that Sonia said in the last podcast, and it's how can I say it? It's basically choosing your questions wisely, and then also tackling the challenges that you're wanting to learn for the job methodically, and being smart with your decision making. Because at the end of the day, you want to show that obviously you can do things independently, and it just obviously you want to ask questions and don't be shy because obviously people are there to help you, but you also want to show to them that they chose the right person. I'm not sure if there's anything from that you maybe you want to add on onto that, Dan.
I think maybe the working, I guess, smarter. Not well, you still have to work hard, but working smarter definitely saves time. I don't think your analogy of 30 times is necessarily too outlandish. I've seen plenty of people like spend half an hour to grasp a tool that some people get like instantly, you know what I mean? So it really is down to the person. And yeah, I think being able to approach something with like sort of break it down and stuff, like it's really easy to ask a question as well. I'm really guilty for that, being like a proper chatterbox. Like
Yeah,
I'll often ask a
same.
question because I want the answer right now.
Hmm.
Like whereas if I'd have just spent like an extra, like even sometimes a minute or two, it might be something as stupid as like where is the file that we need? Like, oh, what folder's it in? You know what I mean? It's like
Hmm.
just work it out yourself. Like that's what I have to say to myself sometimes, because like, you know, it's it's part of that being maybe the transition from me being a junior to experienced has helped me with that as well, because before maybe I would have gone, oh, you know, I'm just going to ask someone to show me this because I'm, you know, because they always say don't be afraid to ask questions, but also like, you know, remember when you don't necessarily need to, and it could be good for you to try and work this out yourself.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, that's going to make the biggest difference in regards to actually learning. Because things stick when it's more challenging, and I think
Yeah,
a lot of people
exactly.
forget that. Like it's great, obviously, to want knowledge. Like we all crave knowledge. Obviously, we all want to learn. We all want to grow. But sometimes, like the biggest task, like this is one thing I realized that so many. Well, it's not just me. I think a lot of people realize. But the one thing that so many people, I just wish more people did it. So, like for example, how many people do you see these days experimenting, like just randomly doing things? Like I think so many people rely on, like for example, like obviously podcasts are great and watching tutorials are awesome, but just doing those like random experiments, like just literally going into a software and having no idea what you're gonna do, but just experimenting. Like it's very rare that I hear about that these days. Maybe it's just because it's the way maybe education comes across in regards to its process, or maybe there is a lot of people out there that do that, but I just don't hear that much about it.
I guess I don't know, but I guess the people that do that are you don't hear from them because they're never talking to us. They're never in the YouTube comments. They're never in the thing because they're just cracking on by themselves.
Yeah.
They will open ZBrush and go through the however many hours of torment it'll take to first wrap your head around how to even get going in that software. If you literally knew nothing about ZBrush with no knowledge whatsoever, it would take someone, you know, with what would you call beginner knowledge of 3D
Hmm.
quite a while to get going in that. But at the same time, they'd probably just stumble on about 20 other buttons that were useful to them in the process.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess you don't. These people do exist, definitely, but I don't think you hear from them because they're not on forums asking questions or in YouTube comments, or they're not in the YouTube tutorials where you discover the people who are.
Yeah.
But a balance is important. I think you shouldn't just go alone because
Oh
you'll
yeah, of
say
course.
you'll spend far too long. You might say you've got like a week to like you've given yourself a week to like learn a bit more about ZBrush than you did, and you've never opened it before. Like me with Marvelous Designer, right?
Hmm.
I'm not. I really want to get around to learning Marvelous Designer.
Okay,
Now,
awesome.
I think when you're learning a new software, right, I think it's really important that you go and do a bit of research on how to move the camera and stuff. So you don't do anything silly. So then you can start messing around. Like often I'll get into a tutorial, right, and I'll start it, and then halfway through I've like paused it. As you are, you're sort of following along, making sure you don't do anything stupid.
Hmm.
You're trying to learn something, and you just sort of pause it, and then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna save this as like a new file, and then I just go off and do my own thing. And next thing you know, I've got something completely different than the tutorial wanted. But using those two tools or whatever I was taught, I've just gone, all right, this is what I need. And
Yeah.
I've done that with designer so many times.
But like that's the thing, because like one of my friends, he actually came on the podcast. He's hands down one of the smartest people I know. So his name's Justin Dolan, and Justin is a technical artist. So he literally one of those guys who like knows everything about every software. Like you could literally ask him any question about like from skin weighting to rigging to modeling to sculpting. Like he'll know which tool to use and he'll know which produces the best result. And it's just like the reason why I think he's done so well in regards to his development as a person and as an artist is because he literally throws himself into just any situation. Like he tries anything out, and it would be great to see more people who. So if you're tuning in and you're trying to get better as an artist, throw yourself in the deep end. Try something random. It doesn't even like obviously like say if you're an environment artist, character artist, you name it, concept artist. Give yourself a weird quirky task like instead of just doing the same cobblestone texture or brick, maybe completely change it out or change the layout and or like the overall silhouette of the bricks that makes it something that's so weird that just challenges you to think. And like that's the thing as well these days. It's so great pressing buttons, but like the main thing, especially when it comes to like, for example, character artists, like it's so good to say copy like anatomy of a piece of reference, like say being able to master that, but it's a whole other ball game when you have to do it from memory and doing it from scratch. Like if you can do it from scratch, then that shows you've actually learned something, and that's one thing I think a lot of us have to start doing more. So carrying on. So this is right. This one's a hard one because I've been trying to figure out how to answer this question as well, and it's okay if you don't know what to say because I've been trying to figure out what are the pros and cons. So basically, what do you think is the pros and cons of being an artist? Does anything kind of stand out to you? Because obviously, like, there's lots of pros. That obviously we love doing art, especially like environment art, whatever your passion is. Is there anything that you've realised that maybe to maybe change it a wee bit? Like, is there anything that you think we can maybe make it easier for ourselves, or like what we tend to not do so well in? So like, my cons is that I think people tend to stay inside more. They tend to do just like always being indoors, if that makes sense. So it's like the social aspect then comes into play. But is there anything else stand out to you that maybe is a wee bit different?
I mean, the biggest one that really kind of annoys me, and I think is a huge con, especially for people who have been doing it for like years and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The longer and the, I guess I don't want to say the word better because longer doesn't necessarily mean better, but the more experienced you are and whatever with 3D art, the more annoying it is to do a personal project. Like if you thrown back to like Dan, who had just been like modeling for 3 months and said, "Oh, make that," I would model something in about a week and I'd be really proud of it, and that would be that.
Mm-hmm.
But now you get me to say, "Oh yeah, do this, Dan." Like literally could be the same thing, right? Let's just, I don't know. Like I've got a water bottle in front of me, right? So a water bottle,
Mm-hmm.
like ask someone who's been doing it not very long to make a water bottle. Take them like an hour, if that, like, and then you get someone who's been doing it for 3 years to make a water bottle. Suddenly they want to do the bite marks around the top where someone may have chewed the top of the water bottle. They need to like do like where the plastic seam had been like melted to like make the bottle go in. They want to, you know what I mean? Like the
Yeah.
more you've got more of an attention to details. So suddenly, like personally, I want to make like this thing, and then I'm like, oh my god, it's going to take me months to do. And that's a huge con because part
Yeah.
of that experience is like seeing something up on ArtStation, being proud of what you've done, but now you have to wait even longer for that because it takes months to do everything.
Yeah, like that's like, oh man, I completely agree. 'Cause so at the moment I'm working on this submarine project, and dude, it's like, so basically, so obviously I showed you my train piece. So I made a train piece before, and that took me months. But this project that I'm working on at the moment is like 3 times the size of my train project, and it's just like,
Take you years.
oh, I genuinely think it's going to take a minimum of a year. No joke, minimum of a year. That's why, like in my spare time, I'm like, right, I'm sculpting animals. I'm sculpting animals. I'm sticking to that. It gives me like something different just to kind of change it up a wee bit.
It's going to be interesting actually from us as like viewers and stuff who watch your Twitch stream and stuff. Like, can you actually stay motivated for a year on one project? Because often I'll be doing something and I'll be like, I'll get distracted by the idea of doing something else, and then
Hmm.
that's sort of like, and then I'm like, and I wanted to do a project, and I got as far as blocking it out and researching it, and I was like, I don't know if I'll ever go back to it. I wish I could, but I know deep down that it may never get opened again, and that's just because of the way that free time works. I'm just glad that I'm forced to stick to things at work, or maybe I wouldn't do
Yeah.
3D art.
No, that's really interesting that you brought that up because, well, that's the thing. So this is the one thing that I'm not sure the words pride myself on, but it's like I'm like, how can I say it? Like, do you know when I choose a project? Like, I'm just one of those people that, like, when I say I'm gonna do it, I do it, and
Yeah.
but like I'm not saying that like a negative to anyone else, but it's just like I just like when I find like the right thing, it's like I'm just set. Like for example, yesterday on LinkedIn, I saw like the most incredible, how can I say it? It was almost like kind of like Pirates of the Caribbean concept art piece with like 4 massive, incredible ships, like all docked together, etc. With just a beautiful kind of composition, and I was just like, oh my god, I want to make that. And it's just like this kind of connection I get with the art. Like when I saw the train piece, like I just knew, Like that's the thing. So when Kieran Goodson posted an article of the artists that got into the industry. By the way, shout out to Kieran Goodson. So Kieran did an article that literally went trending on ArtStation. So make sure to check it out. I'll put it in the description below. Basically, it was all the artists that got hired in 2019, and I was incredibly grateful for him to put me on that list. So thanks for that, Kieran.
Oh, I seen that. Yeah, that was cool.
I thought it was sick. I thought it was an awesome idea, but it's just the fact that it's like you could tell that obviously these pieces took a long time for people to make. Like I said to Dan, obviously it took me 6 to 7 months to make that piece. And then like when it comes to choosing your projects, try and find something. I know it's so obvious, but it's like you want to commit and to put your passion. So if you're trying to get that dream job, sometimes it just takes one art piece. So like find that piece that's going to be like, you know what, oh my god, I'm going to geek out on that, because like it'll just go such a long way. So
yeah. Oh, an advantage we should probably do. We've done 2 cons.
Oh yeah, yeah. Bert said it.
I guess an advantage is like it's a fun job, right? If you get in the right studio with the right team. I genuinely like don't work a day in my life. I'm like one of those people, like sorry, like generic quote, right? No, some days are like difficult, but it's not like I still enjoy the challenge. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's not like it's not like I ever wake up this morning and go, I can't be asked going into work. I've never had that, and that's something I'm really glad I've never had, and I don't think I ever will, to be honest.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that is definitely an advantage because I remember, it's just one of them. It's one of them, isn't it?
No, that's great, because like at the end of the day, it's like obviously sometimes depending on your journey, everyone, like I say, his journey is different. So you might be, I don't know, jumping around from studio to studio trying to figure out what's right, and obviously you'd be smart with that in terms of highlighting on your LinkedIn. Obviously you don't want to showcase that you keep changing all the time. It's one thing that Sonia was saying as well on the podcast. It was a great topic because it was something that we've never really tackled on the podcast. It was something different, kind of just gives people a bit of a reality check. And like that's the thing. So when it comes to obviously working in industry, be smart, give it a go, because at the end of the day it's an awesome experience. So once you've got that job, trust me, it'll be nothing more rewarding, especially when it's your first job. So carrying on with that kind of topic and kind of switching up, I guess. So when it comes to I'm trying to think. Actually, let's go to this one. Right, this is a bit of a random one, Dan. But when it comes to like your inspiration and when it comes to like things that you like to watch, so is there anything that you kind of go to in terms of like listening, etc.? So obviously I like to watch podcasts. So there's one thing that I like to watch a lot of, and that's Joe Rogan, especially when it came to like when he was talking to like Elon Musk. Is there anything that you tend to kind of like, what's kind of the things that you like to listen to get your mind thinking and getting your just all the all the cogs turning, etc.?
Like what is the most productive thing for me to listen to?
Yeah, like what's your kind of go-to thing? Like, do you have anything?
It changes, right? So it genuinely depends. Sometimes it's music, the generic one, right? Mm-hmm. But when I find like a good YouTube channel, right? I said about this in the last podcast because like some things will distract you, and as soon as you realize they're distracting you, you need to change that.
Yep.
So like I realized that I'd like be watching something on my lunch or whatever, and then I'd like go, oh, okay, I'll just like listen to it, like because it's ran over like 5 minutes into the day or whatever. I'll just listen to that, and it, like you think, nah, this is actually distracting me. Like I'm like too busy listening, and then I found like I was talking to our tech artist about it, and he recommended me this channel called That Chapter or something. I can't remember.
Okay.
And it's basically, right, it's like crimes and stuff that have been committed, and it's all like there's no real like footage of what's happened, obviously, because it's a crime, but you get like all the people just discussing what happened, you know, and stuff like that, and you just sort of listen to it, and it's like, I don't know, documentaries and stuff. I mentioned it last time, like David Attenborough and stuff like that. Obviously not the animal ones, but like his autobiography is a good example.
Okay.
Audio books in the past. It genuinely depends. Like I reckon eventually, like in the next couple of weeks or so, I'll realize that I'm getting distracted by the crime stuff, and then I'll probably go, okay, leave that, go back to music, which is kind of like a safe bet, and then sometimes music will distract me as well because I'm like, I don't like this song. Like spend ages finding the song I want, and it only lasts 3
minutes. Oh man, it's the worst.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I don't know. It's not fair on myself because I can't settle into my work because I'm too busy.
Yeah.
And So yeah, it changes all the time, honestly. So yeah.
No, thanks for saying that. Yeah, because like one thing I think it's obviously great for artists, and it's the one thing that drives your kind of ability to get inspired, etc. is trying different things. So like obviously, so I've always said on the podcast, so I like to read books, I like to try different things, read different topics, and like sometimes like just like I said, going, but when it comes to the topic of like we were saying earlier about trying different buttons out or tools out, like that random experimenting, like really trying and look into things that just maybe you're not used to. Like so if you're an environment artist, look into things that are about maybe animal art, etc. Like we're saying about David Attenborough, all these talk shows, maybe things about space, things that can really get your creativity actually flowing, and just trying something different, because like that's the thing. So there's so many artists that obviously like to do things that are trending and follow the trends, whether it's, for example, I won't say any spoilers, but obviously everything's about The Witcher at the moment, so everyone's
Oh
literally
yeah.
talking about um
You can sure bet when a Star Wars film comes out, it's gonna be a million Kylo Rens and like
yeah,
20,000 lightsabers popping up on ArtStation. And if
dude.
yours is like stands out, then fair enough, that's fair play to you. But I see so many.
Well, that's the thing. So, like, literally on Twitch at the moment, I just see everyone drawing Henry,
Geralt.
yeah, Geralt, and it's just like everywhere. It's like, okay, fair enough. That's a trend. That's a trend. But obviously, like trends are great. Like it's
Or the
okay.
Joker was another one. Do you remember that when the
Yeah,
movie The Joker came out? That ArtStation was filled with Joker fan art. It's
just
cool because
yeah,
and I'm guilty of it as well. But yeah, it's just one of them, isn't it?
because like that's the thing. So like when I'm doing sculpting, so obviously I'm sculpting animals and stuff. Like choosing an animal that really makes you, how can I say, not only just tackles your artistic ability, but really, like I said, makes you think. So I was doing a cassowary sculpt last week, and then no, the week before. So I'm doing a French Mastiff dog sculpt at the moment on Twitch, and like each week everything's kind of completely different. So it's just constantly changing up. So my next sculpt's going to be like a whale, and then the sculpt after that is a kangaroo. Like going through different types of animals instead of just doing say fish or whatever, or just doing the Witcher fan art or whatever. Like constantly trying to just rethink it. Like obviously it's great to have a passion for a certain style, but this is one thing that we were talking about on the Q&A. So we did a live Q&A the other day, and Alex Jajoman, who's also been in the podcast, joined the live stream, and he was saying that obviously it's great to have a style on that, but also be aware though that when you get into the industry, things are obviously going to be like changing all the time. If you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, respect to you for going from, let's say, like that train scene was like your kind of headline piece because it was chosen by that guy, and I think we all agree that that's, really good. To go from that to like sculpting creatures is just like such a like it blows my mind because that train scene's something that I would tackle. You know what I mean? That's kind of in my falls within the kind of art I'd like to do
Yeah.
if in a personal project. So, but to me, like sculpting a whale is just so far out there. Mine would just look like a blob, honestly. Like, you know what I mean? So, like, yeah, it's very impressive that you feel comfortable enough to tackle these things, and it's cool because it will broaden your skill set.
Well, I just think more people need to kind of like you said, just try something different, switch it up, because it helps. Like for example, do you when you're doing an environment art piece, like you're trying to tell a story, and like say if you have a good understanding of animals, etc. So say if you're making, I don't know, like a sci-fi animal. I have no idea what I'm trying to. A sci-fi animal barn, because why not? Just
Yeah, I
we're
got
going with
it.
that. We're having something crazy. We're going to do something awesome with it. So what type of animals are in it? Do the horses have some sort of sci-fi slime that they produce? I have no idea why we're saying this, but this is what we're going with.
My brain went straight to that massive rhino from Star Wars Clone Wars. Basically those
Yeah,
three
yeah,
animals from the Clone Wars, and I was like,
sick.
what would keep them in? Because
Yeah,
not. So it went straight to that sort of stuff, and then just emissive maps everywhere,
yeah.
and then that's it. That's the barn.
Like that's the type of thinking, because it's like how can you then make a story from that? So how can that then be evolved? So I was watching a live stream yesterday, and the guy was putting like this goo all over the sci-fi corridor, and he had um, a lighting setup that had a shadow of like an alien, so entering the
Oh, cool.
corridor. And it was just something different because you see the same corridor 1,000 times. Like I've been a culprit myself. I made a Martian environment, and everyone's seen like the typical sci-fi kind of environment. Like there's nothing wrong with that, but it's going out in that kind of like when you start exploring animals, then you start thinking about, right, what kind of images, like say maybe there's a, I don't know, poster in the scene, like what posters do I put on the wall, how do I guide the viewer with the lighting, etc. There's all these amazing things.
Yeah, yeah.
So the next thing I think would be great to kind of talk about is actually the concept of community and social media. And I was wondering, what have you learned over the years when it comes to obviously community relationships, social media? Has social media helped you, or is there anything that you think you could improve on, or is there anything that you recommend?
I think maybe especially to artists and stuff, like don't get yourself down if you're not getting like a million likes on everything. Like social media is like, really bad for that. It like really kind of drives you to want likes on ArtStation. That's why ArtStation got rid of their like thing, the like counter.
Yeah, I was wondering where that
I was
went.
so like everyone that was quite controversial, but I really thought that was good because this isn't Instagram ArtStation. We're not competing for likes. This is art, and there's no competition. It's everyone expressing themselves. And yeah, in terms of social media, like it's such a small industry, yet it's quite vast when you look at it as like a whole thing. But if you actually get stuck in, you realize that you know everyone without even like much effort. I think having that sense of I see 10K, and there's like I assume most people in this podcast, including yourself, are in the 10,000 hours group on Facebook.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with 10,000 hours.
Yeah, it's really inspiring, some of the stuff on there. And then you get like the people who are like not so experienced putting stuff up. And then what really makes me proud to be part of this community is not the people who comment when they're like, oh my God, like, almost laughing at someone who's only just picked up, ZBrush or Max for the first time.
Yeah.
It's people who